Hey guys, this is Brian Mounts with turpmechanic.com. Today I am killing parts of my lawn, just one part of my lawn off. I sprayed it with some non-selective vegetation killer, a glyphosate product. There are other options out there. You don't have to use glyphosate. For me, I'm using glyphosate because it's the most aggressive vegetation killer really that you can get. And I'm spraying it on one of the most aggressive grass types that you could have and weeds that you could have. I got some weedy Bermuda grass in here and kikuyu grass. Both of these are incredibly difficult to kill off, so I'm using the most aggressive herbicide. But while I do this process, I figured it would be a good idea to make a video to explain some of, I guess, the helpful tips that you should know going into the first time you ever spray a non-selective vegetation killer onto any portion of your lawn. Whether you're trying to kill off an entire lawn or just a part of a lawn, then I hope that some of the tips that I'm going to give you in this video are going to help. All right, I want this video to come off as relevant to those of you who follow me and my journey in my lawn, as well as those of you who have no clue who I am, just wanting to learn how to kill off a portion of your yard efficiently. As you see, I've got a variety of products here. I personally, for this project, am using a concentrated form of glyphosate from this Killzall. There's nothing in this other than glyphosate. The reason I'm using that is because I am attempting to kill off a very aggressive patch of unwanted grasses and weeds. Now, the weeds that are in this patch aren't particularly aggressive, but the grasses are. I'm basically trying to kill off common Bermuda grass that has invaded this lawn over the years, and I'm trying to kill off common kikuyu grass, which is a very common grass grown in South Africa, in Australia, and Southern California. Both of these common varieties are very invasive and they're very difficult to kill. They have extremely deep, robust root systems, stolons, rhizomes. There's a lot of material underground, and when we put a systemic vegetation killer on them, it's got to go a long ways to kill the entire system. And that's why I'm using the most aggressive form of vegetation killer, glyphosate. However, if I was trying to kill something off that was less aggressive, I don't recommend glyphosate. Glyphosate is another good option. There's many brands that make glyphosate. Glyphosate is not manufactured in a factory the way that glyphosate is. It's more of a natural product. It's certainly still a chemical, and it certainly deserves to be treated with respect. But in my opinion, this is a little bit of a safer product, glyphosate, than glyphosate. However, it's not going to be as strong. For those of you who have gardens, or maybe you have rock beds and you just want to get rid of any like growth, unwanted growth that's coming up in the middle of, say for instance, your rocks or your gardens, then using something OMRI listed, this is basically a bunch of different oils. This is cinnamon oil, citric acid, clove oil, rosemary oil, and a number of other things. This is basically perfect for organic situations, or when you're trying to kill off a little bit of a lot of different not very aggressive sorts of things, or if you're putting it into a sensitive location where you don't want chemicals going down. It's funny, I was like calling the pattern indicator. This is glyphosate right here, X out. X out is the glyphosate. This is the one that you want to put down if you don't want to use glyphosate. If you want to use something a little bit more natural, it's still a chemical, this is more of a natural chemical. Now, for those of you who don't really care and you just want kill as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible, but you don't necessarily need to go through a lawn, then I wouldn't recommend using these concentrates. I would recommend using more of a spot spray. So this is the Roundup that uses the same glyphosate that you find in this, what is it called, Killzall. This is glyphosate with a few extra additives. You got this little sprayer one. This is perfect for walking around and spot spraying, let's say, for instance, grassy weeds in a large area, but you don't want to blanket spray the whole thing. Now, for blanket spraying, which is what I'm doing on my little spot over there, I heavily recommend, like strongly recommend using a surfactant. These are very aggressive products, and they are chemicals. And when we put them down on the lawn, we want to treat them with respect. We don't want to have to treat them. We don't want to have to apply this stuff over and over and over again. We want to do it in the least amount of applications as possible. And the way to do that is to add a surfactant so that the product can properly coat the leaf systems of all of the vegetation that you're attempting to kill. Usually you're going to be putting approximately an ounce of surfactant in for every gallon of water that you're spraying. This is almost gone. I have other surfactant in the garage, and I can't wait to finish this off so that I can have fewer things in storage. I also heavily recommend using dye. This is an additive that you're going to put into your tank, and I don't think you should skimp on it. Use a heavier dose of this in your tank, because when you use more of this, you're going to be able to see where you have sprayed. So for weed kill, like if you're just spot spraying weeds, it's not that big of a deal if you miss something. But if you're literally trying to kill everything in an entire square foot area, you don't want to miss a spot. And when you can see the places that you sprayed, you're not going to miss a spot. And you might still have to come back later, but at least most of the stuff will have died off simply because you sprayed everything on the first try. When you spray these products, please use gloves. You can get fancy gloves, you can use cheap gloves. If you use any gloves, it's better than not using gloves. Look what I did to my fingers. I got blue dye all over my fingers because I started putting the dye in before I put the gloves on. Use gloves, and when you, if you ever, and you probably will, if you get any of these chemicals on your gloves, then you're going to want to change the gloves. In my opinion, it is better to go through a ton of gloves in one spraying session than it is to go through one pair and get all messy. The reason for that is you're going to be touching a lot of different things. Your sprayer, as a sprayer wand, you're going to be pumping the sprayer. If you've got a battery sprayer, you got to be pushing the button. You got to be grabbing the bottles to move them around. If you have product, chemical on your fingers and you're grabbing the bottles, then you're transferring that chemical to the bottle itself that you might go pick up a week later in your garage and move it from this counter to that counter. Always use gloves. And if you get anything on those gloves, throw the gloves away, swap out to a new fresh pair of gloves so that everything stays clean. Put all of your products on cardboard. No matter how careful you are, products will dribble. They will, as you pour, they'll dribble down the side. You might drip. You want them to drip onto cardboard, something that you can then throw away later. You don't want this stuff sitting on your patio or your driveway or your sidewalks if it doesn't have to. I also heavily recommend keeping paper towels. Now, this paper towel roll is almost gone, but keep some paper towels available so that you can clean up your fingers, your hands, spills, whatever. After I pour things, you take a paper towel and you wipe the top, especially the herbicides. So when you undo this and then you pour, there's always liquid left. There's always herbicide left on the rim. Use your paper towel to clean that off. Otherwise, it will slowly drip down later and become a hazard for you when you're not even using the product. Now, that's just kind of materials that is good to have on hand that I heavily recommend having on hand. I personally, in this scenario, was wearing some shoes that I plan on throwing away. So if you're going to be spraying, especially if you don't spray very often, take the time to wear proper rubber boots. Those are the things that you can clean after you've sprayed so that they're not a risk to you on a later date. In my situation, I decided to use the shoes that I plan on throwing away because I don't want to have to clean rubber boots, and I'm going to throw these shoes away anyway. That's pretty situational to me, but in normal circumstances, wearing the rubber boots makes a big difference. Everything is going to be much safer if you can actually clean your boots afterwards and not worry about chemical residue sitting on whatever shoes you happen to be wearing the day that you sprayed your lawn. Now, in terms of expectations, I want you to understand that if you're going to be killing off your lawn, a portion of your lawn or just a little chunk near your lawn, whatever it is, if you're going to be killing something off so that you can repair it or do a renovation later, you need to do it way before you think you're going to renovate the area. Most lawn kill scenarios take much longer than people realize. In my scenario, I'm planning on applying 3 times to ensure a full kill over the area. And then after those 3 times, I'm still going to till up the area and apply a weed stop in the form of a mesotrione product. So I have a cleanest seed bed possible for later when I go and install the new lawn. I don't plan on putting grass seed down in this area for at least 2 months. If you're going to attempt to kill something off in one try and then put grass seed down or start growing anything in the area, expect to have some of what you attempted to kill start growing back. In fact, some of that stuff isn't going to be killed at all because there's almost always a chunk that is in currently dormant state. You should never expect to be able to kill dormant vegetation with any of these sprays because these sprays are not soil mobile. If they hit the soil, they're not going to go through the soil into the root structure. They're going to break down in the soil and become inactive. These products need to go on actively growing, non-dormant leaf tissue above the soil level and get absorbed that way. When they get absorbed that way, then they can start traveling down into the root systems and all of the stems and stolons and rhizomes to kill off the entire plant system. If any living plant in the soil is dormant, it's not going to get killed off. So once that plant wakes up and emerges from dormancy, it's going to exist, even though you applied a whole bunch of this stuff. And that's why it's important to try to kill everything off over a long period of time. And the irony behind the whole thing is when you do that, after I spray all this stuff on, I'm going to leave it on for a good solid day before anything happens. I'm not going to mow the grass for a few days because any product that gets absorbed into the leaf tissue, I want it to stay in the leaf tissue. I don't want to cut it off. But then I'm also going to continue to water the whole area. I don't want anything to stay dormant. I want anything that happens to be dormant in the soil to wake back up because I'm going to have to apply a second round of this. Almost in all scenarios, I've never attempted to kill off an area and had 100% kill with one spray. Like, it's just not going to happen. If you continue to treat the area after you've applied these products as if everything is still alive and try to get everything as healthy as possible, the second time you spray, you're going to get almost everything killed off. Now, in my scenario, I'm planning on spraying 3 times, and that's because I expect the grass systems that I'm trying to kill to be robust enough that they're just not going to die off completely after 2 sprays. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong. In fact, in between spraying sessions, I'm going to go and I'm going to cover up some of the areas of my lawn that I think have the most dormant vegetation growing in it, and I'm going to cover them up with plastic. So I'm going to water them, cover them up with plastic so that they warm up, see if I can get things to pop back out of dormancy for the second go around, the second attempt to kill the whole area off. Now, it's incredibly important to protect the areas that you don't want to kill. For me, I'm using very thick cardboard going right up against my neighbor's lawn. Now, in my scenario, I also have this very large overgrown aloe vera plant. We're going to be removing that plant, so I don't care so much about protecting it. But I do care about protecting my neighbor's lawn. It would not be cool for me to spray and kill my lawn off and accidentally kill off a little bit of theirs. Do not go out and try to spray carefully. Make sure that you have everything that you need to protect your neighbors, to protect your sensitive plants, the stuff that you don't want to kill, and to protect the areas that you don't want drift to take the product. If I'm killing grass here and I've got a garden here and wind is going this way, even if the garden is not touching the grass area, I need to have a barrier there before I spray. Otherwise, I'm going to get damage where I don't want it. It is not worth attempting to spray any of these products if you can't protect the areas around you. Now, as you're going up against things that are sensitive, I recommend going very, very slowly and precisely along those areas. I also prefer to go heavier in those areas as I'm going in a very precise manner. So for me, that's right up along the line between me and my neighbor's yard. I'm going slow there and I'm putting a thick layer of product down, probably more than the label rate says. And that's because I want to make sure that I get the best kill possible in the most sensitive areas possible so that I don't ever have to come back and do it again. If I'm going to go really slow in the area, I might as well go a little bit heavy. Now, for glyphosate in particular, if you're using a concentrated glyphosate, this is a 41% concentrate, which you mix together with water yourself. These products get diluted quite a bit with water. You're only going to be doing 2.5 ounces per gallon of water. So for me, I've got a 2-gallon tank. So I'm putting 5 ounces of this product into the tank, along with my surfactant and my blue marking dye. That doesn't give you a lot of coverage. It's somewhere around 300 square feet of coverage per gallon. So for me, I'm able to do my entire side yard with a 2-gallon tank, but you have to go about the process with the full knowledge that this is going to take a long time, or it's going to take a very large tank. It is perfectly fine. It is very much okay to go through little chunks of your lawn at a time. So if you've got a large lawn, do the sensitive areas first in small chunks so that you take your time and you're not rushing. Because we're planning to do multiple rounds over multiple months before we get to our renovation, there's simply no rush. We do need to get started, but there's no rush. Do small chunks at a time, 300 square foot here, 600 square foot there. You don't have to go and try to do 5,000 square feet all in the same day. You will regret that decision later in most scenarios. Now, the last parting thoughts is you really need to be doing this in the right environment, the right conditions. If you want to do it in the most efficient way possible, you want to do this in very mild, warm weather. We're talking like 60, 65 degrees is perfect. If you can get it in full sun, that's best. For me, half of my area is shaded by the aloe vera plant and to some extent to the house itself. So those areas, there's nothing I can do about that. But I am doing this on a sunny day, and you want to apply to dry leaf tissues. And that's because you don't want the product to bead and roll off because the leaves are already wet. You don't want the product to get diluted by existing moisture on the lawn, because if it gets diluted, the product goes down to the soil and it deactivates itself. It's not going to be used. In my opinion, you want to use as little product as possible in the fewest applications possible and get the best results possible. And that takes planning, it takes time, and it means you can't rush through the entire process. Take your time. Now, I'm not going to show results to this lawn kill in this video because I'm going to continue applying this product for the next couple months. I already have an entire video linked right up here where I've showed the effects of killing off an entire lawn in 2 applications. This is a less aggressive lawn scenario where I'm not killing off rhizomatic and stoloniferous grass types. So go ahead and take a look at this video to learn more about lawn kill using glyphosate. And if you got any questions, please drop them in the comments box below.